Hey guys, it's Ryan from Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning. Today we have my buddy Richie Goelz. Richie Goelz owns All Suffolk Plumbing. I pick his brain weekly on business, and you actually help me out.
That's how I answer, weekly.
Weekly, yeah, not every day.
It's pretty accurate.
But he helped me out big time on my liability this year insurance, because I got a huge price that was way off. So he pointed me in the right direction. So, but on other things, I do a lot of this heating work and stuff as well.
Good.
So, but basically, we have you here today to talk about how you started, from like the young and rich to where you are today.
Well, originally I worked for a plumber when I was 16 in the summers,
So you're always
weekends.
plumbing.
And then I did go to graduate high school, went to Suffolk Community College for a couple of years. Got a pretty good base, learned about dealing with people when I was there, even though I never got a degree.
Right.
But I actually could do plumbing, and I would work for my friends' parents and make a few bucks.
Right.
And I decided that I wanted to get married young.
Right.
And I had to go to work, so I went to work in the trade.
Yeah.
And
Did you work
I've
5
been at it
days?
since 1968.
Did you work 5 days a week? Or?
I did, in the very beginning, I was in a union.
Oh,
So
okay.
I worked for about 1 or 2 years, and when I was in the apprenticeship, just 5 days a week.
Okay.
And I had a few times when I was laid off.
Right.
And in that time, I got married, I had a daughter, so I had to work full time. So I worked non-union and union.
Right.
And then that's the beginning of the 6-7 days a week.
Yeah. Right.
And
How old were you around that time?
22, 23.
Right.
So,
And then when did you start? So you just went right from
Well,
that to All Suffolk?
no, I started, I worked on the side alone, and I was partners with a guy named Charlie Bruno.
Okay.
He owned Park Avenue Plumbing.
I think I met Charlie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's no longer with
Yeah.
us, but we had sold his business maybe
Okay.
6-7 years ago.
Okay.
We did very well. We worked on the side. We worked for Lakefield Plumbing, which is still a successful
Plumbing outfit.
plumbing outfit. We worked with them. He was there probably from 69 to 76. I was there just 75 and 76.
Okay.
And then we had our own side business. We would do 30 houses a year on the side. We did a couple of school renovations on
Full
the side.
rough-ins and whatnot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did a small office building, all after 3:30 in the afternoon, and Saturdays and Sundays.
That's kind of like the gist.
Yeah.
Like
Everyone we speak to
Yeah.
doesn't work that Monday through Friday. That's reached some level of success. They've always reached
You
that
have to
success
work,
with.
if you want to get ahead, you have to work
Weekends.
2 weeks to everybody's one
Right.
for a number of years.
Because we find that people always see it after the fact, after you're successful, after you made.
Oh, must
No.
be nice.
They only see the right business moves that you made. They don't see all the
Right.
fails or the mishaps or the.
Oh, there was
The hours.
We've had our fails. I wanted to go into plumbing class business, so I left Charlie because you couldn't do both, and
Right.
that deal unraveled.
Mhm.
So I had to go back in the union. I went back in the union for 2 years. I knew a friend of mine who was a foreman for a small outfit, got me in with them. I worked with them until they stopped doing business eventually.
Okay.
And I was still working, Ray was his name, and John. They worked for me on Saturday. We worked for John's father,
Right.
and then we worked for me on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
And we just whacked the money up.
And he didn't mind that, the owner of the other.
Yeah, he didn't mind at all.
Yeah.
Because we didn't, I
Because
did
his
the
work
same
was being
business, I did housing, he did all commercial.
Right.
And then,
So it wasn't conflictive.
no,
Yeah.
and then I went on my own probably 1979, 1980.
Right.
And I was doing just new houses all over Long Island, Fire Island,
Right.
Suffolk County, a couple things in that sort.
Right.
And then I had a big opportunity come my way through my current partner, his name is William Pittenger.
Mhm.
And he brought a huge project out in Quorum to the table, and we bid it at my kitchen table, and we signed it, and we've been partners.
And you guys
since.
got it. Yeah. Now, were you union when you started your company? All Suffolk, was it always union, or
It was non-union.
it was non-union, and then you switched?
I was a
to-
union. I had a union book. I had to give it up to
Sure.
go non-union.
Right.
So I went non-union, and I was non-union He's been at 31 years.
Oh, wow.
With Bill.
Wow.
And, you know, things change in business, and Obamacare had some effects.
Mhm.
The union was more aggressive. They came up with a price that we could use for wages. And so we signed up 6 years ago, and it's worked for us
Right.
at this point.
And the labor pool's a little bit, as far as scale, right? You could scale up and scale down a little easier. with
It's
the-
easier if you're gonna, well, the problem with with the businesses, it's always up and down.
Yeah.
For many, many years, it was kind of on a plateau,
Right.
and you could actually earn. The trick is to get on a plateau and stay there.
Right.
When you're on a plateau, you earn. When you're going up and down, you gotta let people go, you gotta bring people back.
Right.
You know, there's an investment on the way down and an investment on the way back up.
Right.
And it's very difficult to maintain any, you know, profit structure or actually maintain,
Consistency, really.
yeah. Well,
Forecast.
you gotta, to maintain your own amount of money, your pool of money
Mhm.
to operate the business. That's the hardest part right now.
Plus, when you got guys that are more than 30 days, 60, 90 days to pay you.
Well, in today's world, you know, the 30, 45-day payout is few and far between.
Right.
So,
So the standard's what, 60?
yeah. But once you know, once you fund that 60-day window, you start getting money every 30 days. It's not like you get a check and in 60 days another check. It's like once you gotta put the money up for the first 60, 90 days, 120 days.
Right.
And then your money starts to come, and then money keeps coming in at the end.
Right. Why you starting something
So
else?
if you're starting something else,
Or carrying.
that's the key.
Yeah.
So,
So it's like bittersweet because in my business is, we'll book out maybe a month. So I'll know what I have for the month.
Right.
But you'll get a job, you may land a job that's 2 years long. So
Our-
you kind of know what
when we were very, very busy doing housing,
Right.
we had $20 million to do
Wow.
worth of work
Wow.
all the time.
Wow.
We would do, at the peak, around 15 housing units a week. It could be, a
Yeah.
hotel room, could be a, 10-bedroom house,
Right.
but that was about the average.
So you didn't have the stress of getting to work, you had the stress of producing.
I was always signing.
Yeah.
Because we at the level of business, we were taking big chunks out of that. We were doing like almost 800,000 a month.
Wow.
So at 20 million, between 16 and 20 million,
Mm-hmm.
you're only a year out.
Right.
So you have to sell for that following year, or make the acquaintance with people
Right.
that are developing something to come online 2 years out, 3 years out.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, because that's how long it takes from
Right.
filing the application to actually breaking ground.
I think it
On a big
takes
project.
on Long Island 10 years.
Well, we were just talking to that guy, 15 years, and he still hasn't.
No, it's 10
I won't
years.
mention the name, but it's 15 years he's trying to break ground.
I built some small office buildings. It took 5 years.
To break.
7,000 square foot building, not 70,000.
Wow.
You know?
Just an office building.
Yeah. I did some small industrial buildings. They were quick.
Yeah.
And I built a couple of houses for myself. They were relatively quick.
So you say you were trying to do the supply house thing. You did kind of still do that, or that was more?
No, I opened
Family.
plumbing supply house later, like in 1982. I went with Bill in 81, and we needed to buy a lot of material.
Mhm.
And they were paying, that builder was paying us in 30 days. So
Okay.
we were able to finance that pretty quick.
Wow.
So then, that being said, I knew I could, just buying it for myself was enough to pay 2 people to work in the building. My father at the time owned a small landscaping building that was empty in Riverhead. We opened a business, it was called Norfolk Plumbing Supply.
Norfolk Plumbing, which is
And
now something else.
yeah, that got sold to a much bigger company
Yeah.
from New England.
So now that's another thing that every successful person that I surround myself with, obviously you being one of them, is you took money that you made doing X plumbing and you invested it into other things. Granted, it was affiliated with plumbing, but
No,
you bought real estate too.
Yes, we
And
bought
that's-
the real estate. We ended up buying My father owned that small building, we ended up buying that from him.
Mm-hmm.
And then we bought next door was a restaurant. It was a very small building, 4,000 square foot building. We bought that.
Right. Did
So
you keep it a restaurant or did you?
no, we made it,
Just.
that was the actual office.
Oh, okay.
But if you look at the original building, there was a little wooden building with a steel building behind it. We built that in 1986.
Wow.
We built that steel building.
Wow.
But we opened up in that little wooden thing in the front
Mm-hmm.
with a pickup truck with a piece of pipe welded to the front bumper. I'm not kidding, that was the truck.
Yeah.
And then I bought a used truck in 1983 or 4.
I was born in '84.
It's down in Lingo, built a Lingo truck.
Wow. Wow.
And we had that, that was our truck for maybe a year or two, then they started leasing it from
Yeah. So I mean, that's basically the message we try to get out is, you know, it's not a 40-hour work week and you're going to become what you are now or anybody who's successful. It's not only the hours, it's also the risk. You know, like buying a building and starting your own supply house when you're a plumber. I mean, that's a huge risk, even back then. You know, and it worked out.
Well, I just had this attitude that I never had anything to lose.
Right.
I mean, you could
I had the
lose
same
money.
attitude.
You
The
could
problem sometimes.
Yeah, you could lose money.
Oh yeah.
You know, but they had to leave me. No one didn't really make any sense to my family. I wasn't going to lose my family.
No.
The rest is crap.
Right.
So
No,
it's
a
pretty
great
easy to take that, put the money out there. I could always make more. I was young enough then.
Right.
And I had some mentors. You know, my father was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
My uncles, I mean, they all worked steady. My father worked for a plumbing supply house, and he was gone from 7 in the morning to 6:30 at night, you know, 5 days a week, and it was 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning to 1 or 2 in the afternoon on Saturdays his whole life.
Right.
So he worked pretty hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he didn't take a lot of time off in that whole time. You
He
know.
probably enjoyed it somewhat. Or
Yeah, well, he liked it.
sense of
I mean, he liked it.
responsibility.
But his thing was, you know, to take care of his family. He was very, you know, very driven.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his family first. You know, everything else second.
Nice.
So, and our, you know, my parents had, you know, some friends, but they didn't have a real huge social thing other than my aunts and uncles
Right.
and my grandparents.
Right.
And then my father went to bowling once a week. You know, on Thursday nights. You know, I mean, that was his,
Right.
and play golf in the summertime. You know?
Well, that was his
See, that's
thing.
it. That's
Yeah.
all he did. I mean, me, I did a lot of different things.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you kind of took what you learned from him and kind of tweaked it, I guess.
Well,
But
I knew how to work.
you probably took more risks, though.
Well, he was happy if I worked hard.
Yeah.
You know how when you get to that 16, 17-year-old and you're starting to butt heads a little bit.
Right.
If I was working hard, there was no,
Butting heads.
I could do pretty much a free bird.
Right. So he instilled a lot. of-
Yeah, I never thought it would work as work.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I may have my days when you're chopping
Everyone-
concrete all day where you're
Right.
like, this is what, am I stupid?
Right.
You know? Yeah, 10 men working for me. I mean, yesterday I had to lay out a job. I'm 68 years old. You know, I did it myself. I laid out the job. My son came for a few minutes. He said, Dad, you need me to stay? I said, no, it's good. I'm having fun doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 3 months ago, we were in the same situation. We had a backfill trench, you know, 175 feet of trench, 3 foot deep. I promised the
It'll be
builder
done.
he could have the property by 11 a.m.
Was that the Lindenhurst thing?
No, it's a different one.
Oh, okay.
But we did it. We
Yeah.
just stood there and did it. You know, Richie came, our machine got moved to Lindenhurst,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know. So I go there after I make this post. So it's me, my cousin Jimmy, and my son.
Uh-huh.
This guy Gary Berger that's worked for us for 30 years,
Right.
and 2
I met
helpers
Gary.
that happened to be around.
Yeah.
And we had it backfill at home in 2.5 hours. We did. Swept.
Work.
Mint.
Yeah.
You know, we
Work.
got a big hose, we wet it all down, just put it in the hole.
And you good.
Yeah.
So you do what you have to do
Yeah,
when
you have to do it your whole life.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a hard thing.
Yeah. We were just discussing that with the guy that you just met. You know.
He's a worker.
He's a worker.
You can tell what gets out of
78
the
years
field.
old. He's 70. You know,
He said, look at my hands, I got that.
Yeah, yeah,
I get the
yeah.
fingers to prove it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you know, I think it's great. And like I said, you know, I always pick your brain. you know, me and Rich will go to lunch, but I also, you know, I'll do whatever he needs me to
Right.
do. Today,
No,
you had a customer in Westbury needed something,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
called you on numerous occasions, you know, we went through, a guy that worked for me was,
Jimmy.
really wanted to do more heating and air conditioning, and I got him through the heating and air conditioning job I was doing. I needed somebody
Mhm.
to finish it up and find out how I screwed up, and he
Yeah.
came in and fixed up a couple jobs for us right away.
Right.
And he ended up working for me for a year or two, and then he called me and said, I got a problem. I said, what's up? He said, I got a chance to go with a young guy who's gonna build a business, I wanna be a part of that.
So I
said,
just,
"There you go."
before I knew Rich, I kind of stole someone from Rich, not knowing Rich at the time, and now Britt
But
was,
that's the way it works.
yeah,
I mean, I've been
Yeah.
on that side of the fence.
yeah,
It's fine, I didn't have it.
it happens.
But he told me, he said, anything you need. So immediately, you know, I was calling him and everything we did together, he
Yeah.
took care of. And, you know, and now you're gonna get the action.
Absolutely.
Because he's probably retired down in Florida now.
Yeah.
I have a feeling. Because
Yeah, I actually just-
I can't even get him on the phone.
Yeah, no, I went on an estimate today actually, and it was a friend of his son's. And I think they're going to be making a move soon. I don't think they left yet, but
Oh,
you know. So.
sweet guy, always good to me.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But that's, you know, your paths cross.
Yeah, especially in your industry, it definitely comes more.
I live on an island.
Yeah.
So you can walk around with big feet, you know,
Yeah.
like for a year or two and stomp on everybody, and then all of a sudden you're gonna have
Yeah.
50 feet on top of you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It
Well,
doesn't matter.
That's like, you know, always, you're like the saying, always remember, you know, the people on your way up,
Yep.
because you're going to see them on the way down.
Oh, yeah.
There's a guy, I won't mention his name, he worked for a supply house that I used to deal with, and when I was like, I don't know if I said the story already, but I was like 23, I think. I was like, almost my second or third year in business, and he shooed me away as him being my salesperson,
Right.
because I didn't spend enough money, so it wasn't worth his time. And he shooed me off to someone else, and fast forward all these years later, you know, he's now retired, but probably the last 4 years, you know, before he retired, he was at my office monthly asking for an order. And on principle, I wouldn't give it to him. Because if I wasn't good enough then, I'm not good enough now.
So I
So,
had to do with an
Yeah.
insurance guy.
oh really?
Yeah, I had a life insurance guy when I was first married,
Uh-huh.
you know, and I had my own private medical insurance because I was out of the union.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, how about you get me liability insurance for my plumbing business? And he just didn't want any part of it.
Really? You're not worth the
So
risk.
Bill knew a guy, well, Charlie Bruno knew a guy, and then I found a guy in my neighborhood who, you know, slowly we built up enough business where we became interesting. Now, 5 years later, you know, this guy's trying like a monkey trying to get the cork back.
Yeah.
You know,
He's now you can make a little
wants,
something. Yeah.
yeah, he wants the money, he wants the business, and he chased me for 10 years.
And you never give it to him. See, prideful bastard. Not in the same way. In the same way. I won't mention the supplier right now.
You gotta do it, but you have an obligation to the people that did back you up.
Right.
Yeah.
Point. So
Absolutely.
you can't. I had someone, you know, I get someone took a chance on me. They're going to get the action first.
Yeah. Blackman, who's no longer in business, took a chance on me, and I didn't even look at other pricing from other people because I was loyal to them.
Right.
You know, they've since sold, but I'm the same way. It's loyalty.
Yeah, that sale to me is a pretty big smack.
Yeah.
At this point, it hasn't affected our relationship. I don't think it should.
In fact,
You
mine
know?
with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I still buy a lot of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But my brothers sold their business to FW Webb, and I'm doing, you know, a lot more business with FW Webb.
Right.
But Norfolk would have got it, or Greenhawk would have got it.
Yeah.
Those are the three. I stay with those three kind of. I get some other guys come in, but there's a big company out here, AF Supplier. They're probably great, and we work with them. But it's, what am I gonna? I can't have.
They're very good to us.
It's just what I'm gonna do. I end up, you know, I didn't want. I was trying to be loyal to my brothers, of course, and then,
Right.
you know, Blackman for all they did for me. My uncle worked for Greenhawk, and they were very good to me over the years. They were good to my uncle.
Right.
So
Because how much material will you buy a year, on average?
Well,
Figure from all the supply houses, if you group them all together.
I would, well, right now, maybe it's 2 million a year, but it was always more.
Wow. So it's a huge account for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's also another business. We own another plumbing firm.
Right.
So we own a company called Style Mechanical. And that business does very well. We have a third partner. His name is Tim Talk. We've been partners 20 years. And that business does gangbusters.
You find that having partners is a good thing? Because some people say having partners doesn't work.
I've had partners most of my life and a lot of different things. And if you have the right mindset, you're going to do very well.
And not be greedy.
Well, it's not even a matter of greed. You
Yeah.
can't worry. You can't worry if the guy, let's say he comes in and his truck is all waxed up, look like $1 million, and yours isn't quite up to stuff. You can't have any kind of worry about what they do, what they get, how they spend their money outside of the business. If they invest in something else, you cannot.
Right.
You can be interested in it and helpful to them. I said, but you can't say, oh, that guy went out and did this, he screwed me out.
Yeah.
It don't happen.
Right.
With any of the people I've been partners with. And we did have we were partners with Andy Plum Supply out in Riverhead for a while.
Wow.
And that ended kind of ugly. But my two brothers, you know, they know how to handle people.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, we came out pretty much whole.
Good.
You know, and they went away. You know, there was no super animosity. They just went away.
Right.
They hurt people, but they didn't really hurt us that much.
Right.
Yeah.
But your other partners with the plumbing aspect.
That was the only one that really didn't work well.
It was actually with the supply house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I had other, you know, I bought and sold property all my life too. So
That's what I'm interested
that's
in.
when you get stoned.
Yeah.
If you get the wrong guy. Because it's a one-shot deal,
Right.
you know, and we
So
had...
stoned by who? The contractor or the real?
Very early on, we were partners with one guy who... He owed us money. So he bought a house in Setauket a long time ago for $40,000.
Right.
He owed us $5,000. So
Right.
he said, I'll make you a partner in the house. I probably can't give you $5,000. So I said, it works for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then he renovated the basement in the house, and it cost $8,000. So it should have cost about, in those days, maybe, I mean, like the Taj Mahal, $4,000.
Right.
We paid him the $8,000,
Right.
and we got rid of him like within a year. And he didn't even know we were just making a move. We sold the house. You know, I told him we were going to sell it. He didn't know why.
Right.
But at that point, I couldn't, you know, I just
Trust
thought he overcharged me,
Yeah.
and that's not fair.
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't do anything. He got his money, we split it right down the middle. There was no question asked. We got good money. We sold it probably for $75,000, and we had rented it out for a couple of years.
Oh,
So,
residual.
I feel like the people who are looking to make the quick buck fast usually screw themselves in the long run if they're dealing with, you know, a certain
the
person.
guy could still be my partner. I
And
probably would have done a lot more real
And
estate.
how much more successful would you have been?
He was really good at finding this stuff. You know,
Right.
in a way, maybe I could have stayed with him.
Maybe if you don't trust them.
Yeah, just.
So how many real estate deals do you think you've done over the years? Buying, selling, buying, renting?
Probably 30,
30.
around 30. Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, it just is. And now, did you go to college?
I never finished.
Or you never finished? Like me, I went to Farmville.
Yeah, I went 2 years.
Right.
I had a lot of fun, but I met a lot of people. Worked in the gin mills, you know, at nights.
Right.
You know, I was on the student council for a while and stuff, so I got to learn with some really smart people. And you got to just watch and
Right.
see how these people
Absorb it.
act with the faculty meetings and all
Right.
the other stuff you had to go through. It's pretty interesting.
That's great.
So, but that gave me a lot of confidence in myself. That 2 years gave me a real change. Plus, I was growing up. You know?
Right.
But a real change in what I thought.
What you could do.
Yeah, so I had some people when I first got in a union give me a hard time the first day, and they knew they gave me a hard time like very quickly.
Right.
I stood up for myself and it went away. They ended up being my friends for the rest of my life.
Yeah, respect you.
You know, so yeah, and I got that backbone from
Right.
school.
No, that's good.
So I didn't get my associate's degree, but I know
I
I
think you
did
did pretty.
degree.
I think you did pretty
You're
good. you did pretty all right. You know. So like guys like you, not to toot your horn, but you know, I tell Frank, you guys are the guys I strive to be like. So like here I am, some people would consider me successful, but I don't consider myself as successful as I could be.
I don't consider
Because
myself.
you're the chick. I know, that's the problem.
You don't.
The mindset
But,
of,
I'm a normal guy. Get
Yeah.
up in the morning, I gotta put my work boots on before I
Yeah.
go to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't.
yeah, like people always go, oh, you're 35, you're on a business 14 years, successful, you have employees, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not where I want to be. And it's a sickness.
Well,
I don't
just
know how healthy it is, but, you know.
I don't know if it's a sickness. You know, we live in a place where, in this country, where you can have these opportunities,
Yeah,
and not everybody knows what's out there.
right.
You know, thankfully. And if it was easy, there'd be 50 guys trying to do what you do.
Right.
So,
Now, do you see yourself retiring and then doing nothing, or are you going to retire and go maybe more back into,
no, we have some buildings we gotta maintain.
yeah,
And I have, you know, Richie and Krishna there, but I have some of the work we do as bonds and stuff, so I gotta be around for a while.
yeah,
I gotta work.
which is good, it keeps you young. Like the
Yeah, but
guys,
it's their boss, it's their boss. They're the boss now, it's their turn,
right,
you know, so, I'm there just to, well, if they need me to do something, I can,
right,
you know?
right,
And I'm there really just to make sure that the jobs that got my name all over them
And they're
get
protected.
completed, but I really don't feel like they need me for anything,
that's good.
you know, they don't need me.
So that's got to be a feeling of success and rewarding right there, that your
Oh yeah,
son
I'm happy,
is doing,
oh yeah,
and you're
it
not
doesn't get any
holding
better
his
than that.
hand.
No,
You know,
honestly, it doesn't.
he's
get
a
better.
bull and he's doing it, you know,
Yeah,
on his
he
own.
works hard.
It's awesome.
He could be some kind of, you know, different way about things, you know.
Right,
He's not a taker, he
Right.
just goes and gets it.
gets it
You know,
done.
works hard.
It's great.
Uh, My son-in-law works, I'm lucky. I mean, we have guys that work for us now. They started with us when they're 16, 17, they're in their 50s.
Still working.
And they do well. I mean, they have homes and families.
It
And,
says a lot.
Yeah.
Well, my friend Steve, he's another successful guy that I, you know, talked to in that relationship for years. He says, you know, you yourself can be successful, but the true success is making people around you successful.
yeah.
You know, so I mean, he's made a lot of people a lot of money, and that's, you know, true success. I think. Like, how much money is enough money?
Well,
Yeah.
we actually help guys find out how many steaks can eat.
Yeah, yeah,
Some guys need a lot more steaks than me.
yeah.
You know,
And that's, you know, that's their own thing.
that's their problem.
Yeah, but I like to, you know, I feel like you treat your people well. It's a team. Everyone's got vested interest in making one thing succeed, and that's like what you did.
Well, my partner still works. You know,
Yeah.
my partner Bill's working with his hands today. He will be 76 years old in a couple of weeks.
76.
And he walks through the door, his back is straight.
Right. Well, that's probably why he's still, you know.
He moves fast. There's
Yeah.
no, you try to keep up with him, just walk around the shop picking figures. You know what work is.
Now, that's a good question. Like a lot of people I talk to, you know, they say when you're building your business, no one. Well, I don't say no one, but a lot of the guys I talk to say they didn't start making any real money until they put the tools down and started running their business.
There is a point where you're making money with other people's hands.
Right.
Because to stay at a certain level of doing business, because what happens is if you're relying on your own hands, you don't sell the work.
You're not selling, you're missing estimates, you're not getting back to customers.
Right.
And that took a long time for me to learn too. But now your partner was still in the like he has his staffing running the day to day, I guess, and he can
No,
run
he goes.
or he just
No. In '91,
uh,
there was a slowdown, so I moved into the office more.
okay.
So I always did like small jobs, and he had the bigger jobs that he would. I would manage the guys on a daily basis, make sure what they did, what they got done at the end of the week and stuff like that.
Right.
But he would big piece of the puzzle is the original layout, and he did all that for all the big jobs for a long, long time.
Right.
So we got into now. 12 years ago, we started doing these pedestal buildings, these higher, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 story buildings.
Mhm.
So that's a different kind of layout. He does all the stuff under the ground still.
Wow.
on most of the jobs, and then
So then you take
if
it
we don't have any undergrounds, he'll go in and he'll just make sure everything runs a little smoother, you know, on the top 3 or 4 floors, whatever it takes. But he walks around.
And he'll do some barking if he has to, I
He
guess.
it's not his nature.
Not nature to bark.
No,
But you're almost like he's like one of those guys who you just don't want to disappoint.
right.
No.
You know,
I mean, I'll
it's-
yell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you've calmed down, you said, since.
Yeah, but
you
mine
know.
was pretty grumpy. But, you know, it just didn't. It doesn't. When I'm grumpy, the guys laugh when you're not there, and then you're sick about getting pissed off. So,
Yeah.
like that kind of don't work.
Yeah.
But I have my reputation is that
But you said you would get, as quick as you would get grumpy, you would
I
get,
don't stay mad.
you would get calm right
No,
after.
I can't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, it won't be healthy. You know.
I actually don't stay angry more that long.
Yeah.
I never did
Yeah.
because I said, "What the hell is that?"
I was
almost
starting.
every time.
I was starting to get that reputation in the beginning when I first moved into the shop, and I was still in the field, and I think a common mistake when you own businesses, even when you price jobs for how long it would take you as the business owner to do the job, and then when you hire people, not necessarily saying they're doing a bad job, but sometimes they don't do the job as quickly as you personally do, and I would get really upset and feel like people were taking advantage. And I would get pissed. If, something I knew took an hour and took 3, I would get aggravated, and then I would bark at everybody. But I've been here almost 6 years now. I've calmed down.
I've done exactly that.
Exactly that, because you're like, I can get this done in half an hour. What the hell's taking you?
Well, we still bid work
Yeah.
like we're doing it ourselves.
Does that mistake?
That's how you get more.
That's how you get
If
there.
you want to compete in the business that I'm in,
Yeah.
you have to, and then you have to make the guys get there. You got to show them.
Well, you just said
Yeah.
you got to, instead of figuring 15 minutes to set a toilet, he says you got to figure 10. Like you guys down to the
That's
minute
not it.
of like 2 days set. How many toilets?
Yeah.
200.
200. But you can, we don't do that all the time.
No, but when it's
But
a
it
tight
can be
job,
done. No,
yeah.
even when I was a kid, we played all these games. He was racing. He used to race the,
Yeah.
maybe a mechanic on the job. He would walk around with his chest real big, so a kid would take you all day to do it. I said,
Yeah.
"Oh, really?"
But now here's the other thing that comes in the conversation all the time is back then, and even when I started, people had more pride. It wasn't like if you did something wrong in a job, like I know when I started, if you, let's say you did a service call and it came back like the next day, you were like the horse's guess.
Right.
Like, oh, you can't even fix. Now I don't think people care as much.
Oh.
Do you find that? Like there's not that like I don't care if it takes me an hour or 10 minutes.
What
You know?
you see when we were non-union, it was easier to get people to do what you wanted.
Right.
Okay. With the union, there's some protections in place, but we always treat people like men anyway.
Yeah.
So, it's not that big of a stretch.
Right.
But some guys, they have that, a lifetime of protection,
Right.
and they're good at what they do.
And they know what they can get away with.
So, yeah, or either know what they can get away with, or, they feel like they're entitled to X.
Right.
Get to a certain point, like if I can do this in a day, that's a fair day. That's
Right.
a fair shake.
I made him enough money.
Well, that's what the fair shake is.
Yeah.
I mean, so, that's a mind thing. I mean, that's like, a fair shake could be anything. It could be, we could rough this house in 5 days, but if it takes 6, we still give it a fair shake because that guy over there can't do it in 7.
Right.
So that's kind of a mental kind of thing that you can't really get involved in too much.
Right.
So we bid it as X, and then we try to get the guys to get to that point as best we can.
You incentivize or anything, or you really can't do that?
With the union, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
No, you can. You can give them more.
Do you find how it works?
No.
Or yeah.
No, I have.
I talked to a ton of people.
I have guys that were with me 30 years. They got incentives. Trust me.
Yeah.
But
Like your core guys have incentives because they're
there's
core
no
guys
set rule.
for a reason, right?
There's no set rules.
Yeah.
Like we used to give. There was a time when Christmas was a big deal. We don't do it anymore
Right.
at all.
Right.
Because you can't.
Yeah.
You just can't. We just can't get out of our own way anymore. We used to make a lot of money. That
Yeah.
hasn't happened in a long time.
Everything's tight.
But the guys, like we took my one partner Tim is kind of visionary with good help, and he would pick a guy and say, "You can do something,
Right.
do it now." He didn't get there yet,
Right.
and he's pretty good at that. But he's also, if you don't deliver, once he puts that on you,
You're like dead to him. Yeah. My guy Warren's the same way.
I
Like,
don't see it.
because I'm not in the field as much either anymore, which is, like I said, a hard thing for me to
Yeah.
transition to. But I go off of my two supervisors to tell me who's doing what, and they'll tell me, because no one here has ever had to ask them for a raise. They'll tell me, and I'll do it. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't work. You want to like try to like not dangle the carrot, but you know, I guess that sounds bad.
It sounds good, but
But like, hey, listen, you can have a future here, you can have a career here, you could have
Those
this.
words are said.
Yeah,
But it's never, we never put the money amount on it. We said, look, you can work it.
right.
You're going to make good money.
Yeah.
We don't say how much, but
And it
and
depends on-
everybody, that's up to us. If they keep up their end, it's up to us to keep up
yes.
our end. Okay.
And now there's also guys out there who aren't like us that just will basically bleed it dry. Like use a person up for all he's worth and then kick him to the curb.
Right.
You know, and then those people get a bad taste, and then when they come to work for you, then it's like, wow, these going to do
Well, they're not
something
gonna-
exact guy did.
Because
You know,
sometimes,
so it's a vicious cycle.
yeah.
You know, so we found a good amount of that too.
Well, it's real hard to find people who want to do what we do for a living anyway.
Yeah,
we talk about that all the time.
all the time. But in any trade, you're like even my accountant. You know, my accountant says that he can't find a guy that will work 8 hours. Like he has,
Crunch the numbers, 7 times a year, they got to work.
Yeah, I mean it's their computers, so they know what gets done on their computers, and if 3 hours of the 8 hours are on fantasy football when it's supposed to be doing accounting, this is, and then sometimes like I have my monthly meeting as you do yours, and he'll tell me sometimes you just gotta bite the bullet. It is what it is. He still gets his work done. Does it irk you that he's doing it? Yeah.
Well,
Will you find a replacement eventually? Yeah, but right now you gotta deal with it.
I have this attitude that your best thing, the word on the street is you probably get 5.5 hours out of an 8-hour day.
Yeah.
All right. So you could be real strict, like you could be here exactly at 8, and then at 9 to 9:15 you take a break, then 12 to 12:30 you're off, and then for lunch, and then you come back at 2 o'clock, take another 15, and then leave exactly at 4:30.
Right.
Okay, you did 8 hours. This is what I want today.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do it in 6 hours or 5 hours, fine. Then we're going to be good.
Right.
Right. And I'm not going to give you, I want you on time, so I know you're there. That's the only reason.
Right.
But if you stretch the workout and it's done the way we want it in our time frame, that's an 8-hour day,
Right.
you're not going to hear anything from me.
Right.
And we don't push it. I ask the guys, a mechanic, to give me 8 plumbing fixtures a day.
Right.
8, not 200.
Right. I don't know, that irks me
That's
too.
1 in an hour.
Yeah. Because like if my boss said to me, I want you to do X and I'm gonna be happy, I want to do X, I would do an
Well,
extra
yeah.
this.
You know,
and like, but how many guys did you, when you do that, did it go
everybody goes home.
good? All right,
So we got a guy in a 2.5 bath house,
right,
they're done, with the water turned on, tested, never go back again, every day, every day. So when I give that guy a break, I give him a 2-bath house without the half.
right,
Or I give him a 4.5 bath house.
right,
I don't expect that anything. It's
Right.
2 weeks.
right,
You know what I mean? So, and then there's certain things too, like some faucets, I put it on the sink, 2 bolts, hook up the water, drains piece of cake. Some of them, the faucet is 8,000 parts, and it's wrapped up.
Uh-huh.
You open these boxes today,
Yeah.
it takes you an hour to get the wrapping ball. I mean, that's
You guys
insane.
factor that in?
It's insane.
Yeah.
And you don't know that. And we don't supply the fixtures that much. A lot of these big ticket houses, they took that money away from us.
Oh yeah.
So when they did that, guys would take I don't want to worry about paying for it. You made 30% on
Right.
that. You just gave it up.
Yeah.
Gave up thousands.
30% on how many fixtures you said a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a typical house, today probably it's $2,000. You make $700.
Right.
You read how many times?
It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone.
It's tough. I mean, I think most customers are pretty fair, understanding that, it costs money to do business, but, you're a customer that, they think that if there's $300 of profit on a job as a mechanic, you have 2.5 hours, you're making money.
Right.
I don't think you make money at that.
No.
No.
No, and I try to explain,
Customer thinks you are.
we charge $179 service call. It's an hour's labor, and it's $179 an hour. Most of our calls are done within the hour. If we went there and there was no parts to be changed or nothing, I make no money. And it's like impossible for people to believe, but because of overhead and what things cost, you're not making money unless you are changing parts. Do I encourage my guys to change parts? No. If it's bad, it's bad. We take the good with the bad, but it's unfortunate. My service call used to be $99. They charge $99. Now it's $179.
Yeah.
And I'm making the same money, if not less, because it's tighter.
Yeah.
Well, now it's a different game too, because you're not the guy.
Yes.
And the other thing is like just take a look at it. You're not a stationary outfits. You're on trucks and everything else.
Yes.
You work in a gas station. The gas station guy's getting $1.35 now.
Right. Really?
Do I? You know what I mean? I used to see it at $1.06, $1. Now we're starting to see that $1.35, $1.40, now more and more.
Right.
They're fixed. They're there. Now that guy, that renter, with benefits is $42.
Right.
With a really good fair company.
Right.
That's all I get.
Right.
So, but for $90, can you have, a building? You got a 5,000 square foot building. So at 12,000 a foot, it's minimum 5,000 a month rent. It adds up fast. All these numbers.
Yeah.
You got to have liability insurance.
Yeah.
Because guys get hurt on the job, number one. That's your compensation. But they're driving people's cars around.
Yeah.
So it's like, every job,
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Warren today. He said, we're on this mansion drive in Old Westbury. The houses are all 35, 40, 50 years old. But they're 6,000, 7,000 square foot houses that were built in the 80s. And they have driveways with quarter-mile circles on them,
Mm-hmm.
So we pull in, there's a big high circle, goes up to the house, and we just go around to the left. We park, it's a big wide drive, we park off to one side. I said, why? I was telling him we don't really do service much. He says, why? I said, if my car drips by on this driveway, I own this whole driveway.
Yeah. Because you never get it to match.
You know what I mean? I don't want that.
I encourage my guys not to park in driveways.
Well, he has to.
Yeah.
Well, he
With that
actually,
situation.
well, Warren even said,
Yeah.
he would have to walk 2 miles to the house.
Yeah.
You know?
See, Warren gave, those are my two supervisors, and Matt and Ed in my office, they know the struggle. They live the struggle. Not all my guys really know it as to the extent that they know it. And people found, some people have the mindset of your employees shouldn't tell them anything, and shouldn't know anything but what their job is. I don't believe in that. I believe in you make them a team, and then everyone's on the same page, and treat everyone with respect and give them opportunity to grow. And I find it works well, because now they know the ins and
Where
outs.
you're coming from.
They know that, you're not getting rich off X, Y, Z. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, and that's the model we have. Everyone's on the same loop, they treat it like it's their own, and then they instill that into my other mechanics, who are still good, but, it's not exactly them. I would like to have 10 of them, or 12, or 50 of them, but it's hard for that to happen.
Well, even in my business, at this point, I really don't. I have 1 or 2 guys that follow. That's going to end now. I will always do some small commercial buildings and a house here and there with the guys, so I would manage them. I don't manage anybody. And I know for a long time, there was times we had 50, 60 guys. I didn't even know half the names.
How could you?
So
when you're
it was
doing 8 other things, or 10 other things.
Yeah, but I had, a couple of core people. I had this guy Frank Rohr for years, he's retired.
Mm-hmm.
I had his sons, they helped me. My own son was running work for me since he's 20. I had this guy Kevin Cram who passed, he was very good.
Right.
And then So they would I would talk to those 3 or 4 guys, and then they would talk to another 5 guys, and then it would all
Triple
So
that.
it's like the
work
army.
its way down.
There's like a chain of command.
Well, for a while, I adopted Giuliani's vision of how the city should be run. It was actually Bernard Carrick's book.
Okay.
So I used to make everybody if you worked for me on Monday night, I wanted you to give me a short synopsis of what you did in the day, what you did for that day. I want you to write it down and tell me. I want it every day. To the
Right.
lowest guy.
Right.
What it does is it empowers that lowest guy.
Right.
You know, because they weren't doing billing or anything like that.
Right.
So if you're doing billing, you get it.
Right.
And you have to generate money.
Right.
But because of the way they ran the police department, the corrections department, the fire
Mhm.
department, they made everybody responsible. Everybody had a piece of the game.
Yeah.
It worked very well.
Well, it's one big machine.
Very well.
Yeah.
You know, and we did that the industry changed in 08.
Yeah.
And once that happened, all bets are off. It's been very difficult since then.
Right.
But
Do you think it'll go back to what it was, or it'll be a while?
no, I don't.
I don't know.
Because there's no property anymore. I mean, there are some,
Pockets.
and well, you know, these big builders, they're bold, they'll buy schools and knock them down and put up hundreds of units.
Right.
They're usually rentals or condos.
Right.
But I did 90% of what we did until maybe 80% of what we did was houses, separate family houses.
Right.
We did them all. I think there's probably 5 or 6 contractors that do that now. That's it. There
Right.
had to be 60 guys with 50 men each.
Wow.
When we were rolling, there were guys all over, around the woodwork.
Throwing houses up. Wow.
No, plumbing contractors.
All plumbing countries. Just
Yeah.
doing their houses there.
Just doing for little guys all around.
Wow.
My dad ran a plumbing supply house in Smithtown. I used to go there as a kid,
Mhm.
8 years old, on Saturday mornings with him. And it was one car width from Jericho Turnpike to the front of the store.
Mm-hmm.
So all the trucks would be nosed in, right? And then for a quarter of a mile, you know, east or west of that supply house, they'd be parked on the street. They had a concrete road with a little shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Big trucks, they'd be humping the shit up and down the road. It was insane. You know, and everybody had 3, 4 men. 2 trucks, 3, 4 guys, that's it. They all made a ton of dollars.
Wow. Yeah, because there was so much work I could charge you
Yeah.
once just
Yeah.
to get it done.
Yeah.
Now, what are your thoughts on that as far as like right now, for example, it's July. We're booked out a month for air conditioning and boiler work. Guys will raise their prices, you know, if you want to book or get on the calendar, they'll raise their prices. Do you keep your prices the same? You don't get greedy?
No, if we're real busy, we don't raise the price.
Right, you just,
Sometimes we've tried.
right,
If you're busy and then you don't get all the work
Right.
right,
because you did raise your price, what you gotta get.
yeah,
And then somebody else will, you know, will come in less money. It's not quite as busy. We live on an island. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
it's bouncing all around. You know,
I would say
yeah.
pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Yeah.
So I always say singles and doubles,
Yeah.
you know, just keep it
Yeah.
the way it is.
Yeah.
And
Never
it's
swing
fair.
for bleachers.
Yeah.
You know.
Enough of those singles and doubles to build your next business.
Yeah, there's going to be some niche business coming up. There's going to be a lot of sewer plant work, you know, water treatment, that kind of big stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there won't be too many schools built.
Is that stuff that you get involved with that stuff too?
I did probably, I think I did 11
Really?
plants, little ones though. I did 2 renovations on pretty good sized plants,
Uh-huh.
but the plants I did are small package plants. They're not big challenging ones. We did one that was kind of challenging out on the expressway at exit 63 for Tritech. Richie ran that. He did a nursing. He did the rehab facility there. It's virtually a 90-bed hospital. So
Wow.
medical gas, everything.
Wow.
He was 22 when he ran that job.
Wow.
He did the sewer plant and he did the hotel. All in about 2.5 years. We were cooking back then. We're not doing anywhere near that plant. We had enough sold. The COVID really slowed things down for us.
Right.
If the financing stays in place, by this time next year we should be cranking like crazy.
Yeah. Now, as far as like real estate and stuff like that, do you think that's a good thing to jump on now? This investment?
The price, it's hard to say, the price of industrial real estate is through the roof right now.
Industrial?
Yeah.
Why do you think?
Well, there isn't any.
Okay.
There isn't enough. They're coming out of the city. In the city, they shuttered all these old buildings, knocked them down, and put apartments up.
Right.
So that there was a natural migration
Okay.
out here. So we're getting guys that are getting pushed out of Nassau County. Can't afford it. Not here now.
That's true.
I mean, I have one tenant right now that's a little bit behind.
Right.
And I told him, he was behind before.
Is that commercial or
commercial?
Right, okay.
And I don't. We only have one housing tenant left.
Okay.
We own condos in town. So, but he's struggling. So I don't want to bully the guy.
Mm.
But now he owes us 6 months rent. So he's in trouble. So yeah, because of COVID, he really could legally off. You have 90 days or 120 days anyway. You know what I mean? So he's not really, semantically, he's not that far off. But my pocketbook wise, it's going to be hard to make it up.
Right.
And he's in a movie business.
Mm-hmm.
So he owns 2 indoor movie theaters, but he owns 2 big outdoor theaters.
Right.
Somewhere. And,
Yeah.
you know, which I don't think they're that close by. I think one's in Maryland and one's in New Jersey. They make a lot of money.
Right.
But he made a lot of money putting up instant movie theaters in the Hamptons every summer.
Right.
And he did this big show at South by Southwest. He'd go out and he set it all up, and then he got canceled, so he lost all the money to set it up.
That's tough.
So, you know, he's got some issues.
And you have a heart too.
But I got guys who want to come in there.
Yeah.
Now he's in there at $10 a foot. I can get a guy tomorrow at $12 a foot. So if he leaves, I'm gonna have to fight in the courts for that money.
Right.
See, you gotta wait.
And that's factored into investment and costs and stuff like that.
Now it's that at that point
Well,
we
you
were
don't-
building out
well, you're
right
lost.
for years.
Yeah.
But what happened with the value of the buildings? These buildings were selling between $90 and $100 a foot as late as 2015. Now they're selling from 200 to 250.
Duh. More than that. That's insane.
Yeah.
I remember there's a building right over here, you're right. It was an 8,000 square foot building. They were going to sell it for $835. I didn't have it.
Yeah.
There's like,
It's $100 a foot.
this is 5 years ago. I
Yeah.
didn't have it. And now that building is,
$96.
imagine that. Right, it's
And there's somebody there.
Yeah,
And that's the
absolutely.
weirdest thing is somebody. Well, the rents really haven't changed. They finally had like a little uptick in the last year or two.
Right,
Because I paid $570 a foot in 1983 for my first place I rented. The first really nice building I rented.
mm-hmm.
And then I became a landlord. And I'm finally seeing, breaking $10 every time, every deal.
Now, was that one of the best things you did? Buy your own building for you to rent from yourself?
Well, like
That helped with
oh, yes,
success?
absolutely, yes.
Yeah. That's another thing.
Well, you actually can pay a little more for your first building if you're going to use it yourself. They call it an
Yeah, because you're almost
Yeah.
guaranteeing yourself.
But you have to. We had a rule of thumb that someone gave us.
Uh-huh.
If we bought a building for $300, we had to get that money back within 6 years.
Okay.
If it was 8 years at the outside, it's not a great deal, but it's a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
But 6 years was a home run. And we paid off everything in a couple of years that we ever bought. We did take a long time to pay off where we are now, but we used the proceeds to build another building. That we owned outright from day one. We never had a loan on it. We built a 20,000 square foot building. Right behind it.
Big risk, big reward.
We
Okay.
just put the money out. We see the problem. In 1986, I worked for a guy, his name was Richard Stasso. He was a supervisor for a Strathmore company, and then he was with a guy named Dave Ricciaretto, and they built condos in the Hamptons.
Mm-hmm.
And he liked me and Bill. He was talking to me one day, and he said, I had 9 minutes to get to handle your job. He says, yeah, I have 9 minutes. That's not a lot of men, Richard.
Reality check.
I got it a lot, man.
Yeah.
We were doing virtual, we were doing 100 units for them. This
Yeah.
guy only had 25 units to do, or 27 units.
Yeah.
It's a piece of cake.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's the thing. You're constantly humbled.
Yeah,
Like
well,
here you are trucking along there,
Oh, yeah.
then you see a guy who's like blowing the doors off. You're like, shit. And it's like, all right, maybe I'm not so big now. Not that the wind gets taken out of your sail, but you're like,
yeah, no.
all right, but it gives you like more pep to. You don't get stagnant. I think some people get stagnant, and that's a mistake.
No, you can't.
You
You
can't.
gotta keep doing stuff.
Yeah, you gotta keep reinvesting.
I'm stagnant.
Yeah,
You can't do it. You gotta keep moving.
that's so funny.
But Dick Sasso, the point he was trying to make to me was
Uh-huh.
not having a size of a business. You said you're going to start to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll never have a problem until you have money.
Until you have money. And what's
It's
the
not
problem?
the answer.
Taxes.
What do you do with it?
Yeah, what do you do with it, right?
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I mean, at one point I had 2 sports cars in my garage. All right. I had a Suburban to drive to work. My wife had a fairly new car. I lived in a nice house I built myself.
Right.
Right. I put money in the bank. It gives you not 1%.
Now you get nothing. Yeah.
Good shit for it.
Right.
You invest in the stock market, so you start to watch it yourself.
I hate
You're
stock.
not get your ass kicked.
Yeah. Well, do you not like it because you don't have that control? At least if you invest in something like a piece of real estate.
At this point in my life, I will soon be heavily involved in stock.
Stock market. I find a lot
Because you get in and out.
people your age.
Get in and out.
Yeah.
In and out.
But you have the money to get in and get out.
Well, I'm not going to put huge sums of money.
Okay.
I take 35, 40 grand,
Right.
invested in.
Well, to some people that's a lot of money. Some people put $1,000 in stock. That's the
But then they can't afford to lose. But I've done that.
Yeah. Me too. I did it when I was 18. I'll never do it again.
Bill and I invested one time. Someone gave us a lead, so we put $5,000 in this company called
Google.
Mammoth.
Yeah.
Google. Follow me, So we put it in Memtech instead of Mammoth.
Okay.
All right. So the Memtech stock, the correct one, lost the $5 grand real fast. The Mammoth took about 5 years to lose the
Oh,
$5 grand.
Either way, it was a loss. Yeah. Oh God.
We could have got out. The Mammoth went up and down, up and down.
Right.
But there's a lot of ways you can lose. You can get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
You're always trying to buy insurance properly. We bought compensation to a trust for a while. Whatever we save, you got to pay back.
Well, because that's when if the loss comes up, then
No,
each
it
party
was single and several. It was wording. You needed an attorney. And before we made the move, we had meetings with other huge, successful plumbing contractors from the city.
Right.
And they didn't like the wording, so they didn't do it. We did it. And we saved huge money for like 6-7 years.
And then you had to pay.
And then the state changed the rules. Because we were cherry picking. We were only taking good accounts.
Right.
So we ended up paying almost all of it back, or maybe a little more. And then where do you get the money? We put it in the buildings,
You're not counting on it, then you don't.
Yeah, so you get smacked around pretty easy.
Yeah.